Ignacio, Katipunero, sugod, todo sa kayod, dunong at tulog, lipat na blue eagle, kaning giting nagigil, blue and white, one big fight. Radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan.
Mamangha sa lalim at ganda ng ating kultura at diwang makabayan, sa mga salita at pahina, sa tulong ng mga guro at manunulat ng panitikang Pilipino. Halina't tuklasin ang yaman ng ating panitikan, ang pamana ng ating lahi. Kasama si Binibining Andrea Trinidad, Ginoong Jethro Tenorio at Ginoong Yol Hamendang ng Kagawaran ng Filipino ng Pamantasang Ateneo de Manila. Ito ang Sari-Sari, ang Catholic Mass Media Awards Special Citation Awardee para sa pinakamagaling na palatuntunang pang-edukasyon sa radyo. Dito sa Radyo Katipunan, 87.9 FM.
Hello mga Katipuneros. This is Father Ro Atilano SJ. Listen to our serving of stories that will inspire you and keep you going. Kaya tara na at lasapin ang masarap na timpla ng buhay. Welcome po kayo sa The Parable Cafe every Tuesdays at 3:30 p.m. only here on Radyo Katipunan 87.9.
Bahala sa iyo, kaibigan ko.
Radyo Katipunan is now online. See our live feed on facebook.com/Radyo Katipunan. Check out our Instagram and our Twitter at Radyo Katipunan and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Radyo Katipunan FM for more exclusive content. The Jesuit Hour. Get to know the Jesuits. Discover their spirituality, their history, their ministries. The Jesuit Hour. Anything Jesuit, everything Jesuit. The Jesuit Hour.
To open our eyes and ears that we may see the face of Christ and hear His voice in our midst. For 28 years, Jesuit Communications has been promoting the Catholic faith and serving the nation through both traditional and new media. Hear us tackle national issues in light of Christian values on Usapang Kapatid, Pasakalye, and Radio Veritas. Watch our uplifting reflections on Kapet Pandasal and The Word Exposed, as well as our acclaimed TV specials. Listen to the inspiring and soothing music of Jesuit Music Ministry's original artists as you read our spiritually enriching books. To learn more about JustCom's mission of evangelization and education, follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and our website, justcom.ph. To give a face to the faceless and a voice to the voiceless, that we may recognize Christ in them and hear His story in theirs.
Radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpa at tama. Buhay atenista sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng pwera. Radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, Katipunero, sugo, todo sa kayod, punong at tulong, lipat na blue Baka naman pwede?
Baka naman pwede.
Mga isyung napapanahon ating pag-usapan.
Baka naman pwede.
Gamit ang mga pananaw mula sa iba't ibang kalinangan.
Baka naman pwede.
Mula sa Institute of Philippine Culture, kami inyong samahan, tayo'y maghuntahan. Dito lang sa
Baka naman pwede.
Tuwing Huwebes, alas 3 ng hapon, dito lang sa Radyo Katipunan, 87.9 FM.
Magandang hapon sa ating lahat. Nakikinig kayo ngayon sa Baka Naman Pwede, isang programa ng Institute of Philippine Culture at ng Radyo Katipunan na naglalayong pagnilayan ang mga napapanahong issue gamit ang lente ng agham panlipunan o social sciences. Nais din nating mapagkwentuhan ang mga bagay na baka naman pwede nating tingnan muli, pag-ukulan ng pansin at aksyonan. Ako po si Skilty Labastilla ng Department of Interdisciplinary Studies at ng IPC dito sa Ateneo de Manila University at ako ang inyong magiging tagapagdaloy sa hapong ito. Kanina napansin ko na dun sa parang ad ng aming program, alas 3 yung oras na hindi pa namin nabago yon. I think a couple months back we moved the schedule to 2 o'clock. But hopefully mababago namin yung part na yon, no? Baka nalito kayo na alas 3 na ba, hindi alas 2 pa lang po. So ang ginagawa po namin dito sa Baka Naman Pwede ay kada Huwebes, no, ng alas 2 ay meron kaming mga panauhin na nakakapanayam namin, nakakakwentuhan tungkol nga sa iba't ibang issue, no, na relevant issues today. Last Thursday po, ang topic ay si Virgin Mary, no? At meron kaming guest moderator or guest host galing sa School of Humanities ng Ateneo, si John Paul Bolano, at kasama niya rin sa School of Humanities isa sa guests, no? Si Mark Calano, Dr. Mark Calano. At ang isa pang guest ay si Dr. Sapitula ng St. Vincent School of Theology. So yun, maganda. Na-miss ko yung episode pero habang napanood ko yung first few minutes, mukhang very interesting yung discussion nila about the Virgin Mary. No? For example, yung natutunan sa panahon ng Baroque period sa Europe na dinala ng mga Kastila ang Katolisismo sa Pilipinas. No? Isa sa mga napag-usapan nila yung nagkaroon ng build-up ng Marian devotion sa simbahan dahil ito ay nagbigay ng alternatibong tugon sa biblical scholasticism ng Protestant Reformation sa Europe. So medyo mahaba-haba itong parang recap, no, ng episode. Hindi ko na isa-isahin ito para dun sa mga interesadong malaman yung naging discussion about the Virgin Mary. Maaari pumunta kayo sa Facebook page ng Institute of Philippine Culture at makikita nyo doon yung previous episodes, lahat ng previous episodes ng Baka Naman Pwede. Alright. Ngayong hapon naman na ito, bilang paggunita sa National Indigenous Peoples Month, makakasama natin si Redemptorist Brother Karl Gaspar ng St. Alphonsus Theological and Mission Institute. At very recently ay bahagi ng Ateneo de Davao University para pag-usapan ang kultura, kalagayan, karapatan at pakikibaka ng mga kapatid nating katutubo o lumad sa Mindanao. At syempre para malaman na rin yung kumusta naman natin siya, no, sa buhay niya ngayon and his past experiences, no, as a champion and advocate of Indigenous peoples. Sa mga viewers po natin sa Facebook, pwede po kayong sumali sa aming kwentuhan. Kung may questions po kayo, type nyo lang doon sa Facebook page para mabasa po namin at maisama sa ating discussion ngayong hapon. Ngayon po, ipapakilala ko lang brief summary of introduction, no, of Brother Karl kasi kung iisa-isahin natin yung achievements at mga parangal na nakamit ni Brother Karl ay mauubos po yung oras natin, no? But briefly lang po, si Brother Karl nga ay isang Redemptorist brother, isang anthropologist, theologian, author, artist, environmentalist, and missionary. He has devoted his life in peacemaking, care for creation, ecumenical and interreligious dialogue, and in championing the cause of the Lumads, especially in Mindanao, for more than 30 years. Para sa mga advokasya na ito, natanggap niya yung parangal Lingkod Sambayanan ng Ateneo de Manila University noong 2017. No? Isa lang po yan sa mga parangal na natanggap ni Brother Karl. Marami po yan. Nabasa ko mga Lifetime Achievement Awards kung saan-saan, mga honoris causa degrees. Pero yun po, sa ating pong mga tagapakinig at manonood, bigyan po natin ng masigabong virtual na palakpakan si Brother Karl. Magandang hapon, Brother Karl.
Magandang hapon, Skilty. Maraming salamat sa iyong introduction. I'm so honored to be here, part nitong programa ninyong Baka naman Pwede.
Thank you, Brother Karl. Actually, hindi ko nakwento kanina before we aired. No? Yesterday, may kapatid ako, si Bok. Nasa Leyte siya. Tapos, sabi niya, kasi taga Leyte din yung misis ko. No? Nag-text siya sa namin sa group chat. Sabi niya, Pia, malapit lang ba itong magandang golf course dito sa Baybay, Leyte? Tapos nabanggit din niya nga, meron nga siyang kasamang anthropologist, si Brother Karl Gaspar, baka daw kilala ko. Sabi ko, wala namang anthropologist na hindi kilala si Brother Karl. At nabanggit ko nga na makakausap ko kayo ngayong hapon na ito. No? So tanong ko, Brother Karl, totoo po ba na nasa Leyte kayo kahapon at kasama niyo yung kapatid ko?
Alam mo, itong mga kwentong ito, nagkakabuhol-buhol, kahit nasaan patutungo yung direksyon nito. Ang nangyari ganito, meron din akong kaibigan at isang lawyer, nagtuturo ng law dyan sa Ateneo de Manila, si Aison Garcia.
Yes.
Si Aison ay nagpunta ng Ormoc.
Yes.
Dahil meron silang tinitingnan doon na isang proyekto ng dating si Father, ng isang dating Jesuit, di ko nakilala. At yung project na yun ay isang golf course, resort place, retreat house, na gano'n. At napunta siya doon dahil sila ata yung tinutukoy nitong ex-Jesuit na to na tumulong sa mga legal whatever matters regarding siguro the land ownership at lahat-lahat na kasi malaki daw yung property na yon. At bumisita siya sa akin kahapon dito sa Cebu. So I want kung yung storya na yon na kaibigan mo si Aison nagpunta ng Ormoc, nabanggit din namin, nag-usap din kami hinggil sa Baypay kasi meron din akong contact dyan sa BSU.
Yeah.
So yung mga kwento na yun siguro nagka-connect na at dumating doon sa kapatid.
Oo, so yun pala yun. Yun pala yun. Kaya nga, nabanggit na nga sa amin na parang gusto mo raw pumunta sa VSU.
Yes.
Yung wife ko grew up in VSU kasi yung parents niya.
Great. Alam mo kasi, may isang nagpi-PhD dyan sa BSU. Dati siyang seminarian ata ng mga ng mga MSc, missionaries. At nakilala ko din siya doon sa network ng mga philosophy scholars. Pagkatapos, nabasa niya yung ilan kong libro at nagkaroon din kami ng pagkakataon na kasama doon sa Lake Cebu. Sa lupain ng mga Tiboli, dahil yung tema ng kanilang philosophy conference noong taon na yon was to pursue the discourse on Indigenous philosophy. So doon pala na interest na siya sa tinatawag kong Indigenous philosophy dahil lumilitaw naman talaga siya all over the world among the IPs sa Latin America, even in Australia, New Zealand, and in Canada. So, itong estudyanteng ito, professor din, nagtuturo ng philosophy sa BSU sa Baybay, ay talagang pinorsu niya yung topic na yan. At ang kanyang susulatin na dissertation will be on indigenous philosophy, and he will use whatever writings I've had done already to be like the starting point of his dissertation. Kaya promise ko sa kanya, nandito na ako sa Cebu, mas malapit.
Yeah, malapit na yun. Oo.
Gusto kong pumunta dahil din nalaman ko rin na ang BSU pala yung may rich repository ng lahat ng seedlings ng ating endemic trees sa buong Pilipinas.
Right.
Kaya ako bilang ecology advocate, I'm so interested, no, dahil I have friends in Davao who really are in the advocacy to plant more endemic trees. Kaya yung mga contact na yun ay napakahalaga. Kaya gusto kong punta rin doon.
Good. Yeah, yun po nagkakawing-kawing na nagko-connect yung mga stories natin, no. Yun nga, yung wife ko actually worked in the Institute of Tropical Ecology, the office that's handling the rainforestation program that's being run by VSU. Dun sa maikling kwento mo na yun, Brother Karl, ay may mga napasadahan na tayo parang mga kumbaga achievements mo sa buhay. For example, yung mga nakwento mo na nasulat yung libro, at nabasa ko na you've written, umabot na ba ng 50 yung libro niya nasulat niyo, brother?
Ano ba yan, Skilty?
Parang ganun ganun karami na natandaan ko.
Yeah, sa totoo lang siguro, kung non-fiction, dumating na siguro sa 25. Pero ako din ay nagsusulat ng short stories at ng nobela. Kaya so far, kasi yung iba pa yung published, iba rin yung non-published. Alam natin yan. So published lang yon. So sa published fiction naman, siguro umabot na ng 6. So yun pa lang, saka hindi na aabot ng 50 dahil matanda na ako.
There's still time. Tapos, I know how prolific you are. So, yun nga, gusto kong balikan, brother, kasi very crucial yung skills mo as a writer in your advocacy, no, sa IP struggle. So, siguro pakikwento lang kahit sandali, Brother Karl, paano nagsimula yung love mo for writing?
Yeah.
What was your childhood like in terms of writing?
Well, alam naman natin yung ating mga karanasan sa buhay ang naghahanda sa ating kinabukasan, di ba? Ako'y very, very lucky talaga na in my educational experience from high school through college, marami sila na mga teacher at professor na aking nasalamuhan na talaga naman sila ay nagbigay sa akin ng tips paano magsulat, at ini-encourage naman ako na sumulat dahil alam ko naman nung mga panahon na yun ay napaka-insecure ako sa aking writing, kasi I wasn't too confident yet that I had the ability to be able to write, Pero sige lang, dahil ini-encourage ka nga at requirement din naman sa klase, kaya ginagawa mo hanggang makakaya mo. At minsan naman ay natutuwa sila, at kung ipabasa mo ito sa iyong mga kaibigan, natutuwa rin sila. So yun, mga encouraging moments na yun, at yun siguro yung mga early signs na baka meron na akong writing skill. But eventually siguro when I was doing my MA, dahil alam naman natin pag mag-graduate school tayo, ayan na, dumami na ang pangangailangan ng term paper. Kaya noon pa man, kasi pwede naman talaga na sumulat ka lang para to fulfill a requirement, di ba? Pero minsan din, iniisip mo rin na paano ko ito isusulat na interesante din naman. Hindi lang ako ang gustong bumasa nito at ang professor, pero pwede ko rin itong ibahagi sa aking mga kaibigan. Dahil ako naman ay marami akong kaibigan dati na, and I have always been very ano bang tawag dyan? Gusto ko ba nabasahin nila yung sinusulat ko?
Yes.
At well, alam mo naman mga best friends, siyempre, they will encourage you to do so. So in graduate school, I began to think already of magsusulat ka nga, gawin mo na lang na mas maganda, hindi lang na to fulfill a requirement. So yun ang nangyari. And then later now, when I started working, I was very lucky to work with the Philippine Business for Social Progress, no? As research officer. Doon naman talaga, kailangan ka talagang sumulat dahil when you do field work, kailangan mo sumulat. And then our director at that time had a literature background. So gusto din yan ang sinusulat namin. Meron din namang literary value bukod doon sa nagbibigay ka ng report. Lalo na kung nagpupunta kami ng mga Indigenous communities. Dahil sa PBSP, doon talaga nagsimula yung aking exposure. Sa Tiboli, Nasubanan, at iba pang mga lumad groups dito sa Mindanao.
Right.
Kaya 3 taon din ako sa PBSP, kaya nahasa siguro yung aking writing skill, yung aking, at least yung aking grammar, no? Kasi talagang yung aming grammar. Ano yun, very helpful. Pero I never, at that point in time, I never really thought I would have the ability to write a book. Diba, dati-rati kasi, I don't know about your generation, pero yung aming generation that came of age in the 1960s, pag sinabi mong libro, Western yan. Kasi kung pupunta ka sa library, wala pa naman ganun kadaming mga Filipino authors.
Yes.
Pag pumunta ka ng Filipiniana section, ilang libro lang yan. At karamihan yan mga Pilipino na nasa abroad or from Manila, wala namang mga taga-probinsya dyan, di ba? And usually English lang din ang available. But mostly Western talaga, even fiction novels, ganyan, Western naman talaga yun.
Yes.
Kaya hindi mo maiisip na ikaw ay may kapasidad ba na sumulat ng libro. Parang ang taas-taas na yan. So I never thought in my life I would ever write a book. Anyway, to make the long story short, I was abducted by the military in 1983 because of my work in human rights. I got abducted and then imprisoned for 22 months. Now, one of the first things you ask yourself when you are faced with this dilemma, this reality that you don't know how long you're going to spend time in prison, because noon naman sa martial law ni Marcos, you can stay in jail forever, di ba? Meron talagang tagal-tagal. Kasi already we knew that the courts were not functioning well and ang delay after delay ng mga court hearing. Kaya talagang tatanungin mo sarili mo, ano ba pwede kong gawin dito? Sabi ko, siguro naman I will have a lot of time to read kasi I like reading. And maybe I'll write a journal. I'll write letters. I'll write anything. At doon talaga nahasa yung aking writing skill because doon ko na-discover na ang pagsusulat pala, pag yung puso mo ay kasama, hindi lang isip mo, may diferensya talaga na lumalabas sa sinusulat mo. Because when I started writing, and I again wrote these like letters, although they became part of a journal, my friends were very touched, no? By some of them. And some of them said they cried when I wrote some of these letters. And so I said, may power pala to. But di ko pa rin inisip na magsusulat ako ng libro. Pero ang dami kong libro na sinulat, no? And then, after a while, kasi 2 years din ako sa loob, may mga kaibigan ako mga madre, like Sister Helen Graham, isang Marino, saka Sister Brida Nunan, isang Colomban. Mga ano yun, mga writers na very appreciative of good writing. They were together in Osamis kasi nagturo doon si Sister Helen sa seminaryo at doon din naka-assign Sister Brida, and they're good friends. They come together to drink beer, no? Mga battery na yun. And then they were getting my letters because I was writing very regularly. I was moving all over the place because people were xeroxing them and sharing it with friends. And then the two of them said, why don't we compile this together and perhaps there can be a book that came out of it, no? And they said they were willing to edit my letters. And they asked me, and I said, that's public consumption. So anything you want to do with them, okay lang. And so they did, and they went to see Father Alberto Rosa and Clarician, and they said, we are proposing a book. And Father Rosa said, yeah, send it to me. And when they sent the manuscript, I was still in prison. And when Father Rosa saw it, yeah, this is going to be a good book. And so they published it, and it got released even before I was released from prison.
Wow.
So that was my
Brother,
first
sorry.
book.
This was 1985, right?
This is 85.
Yeah,
This was
the title is How
1985.
Long?
How Long?
Prison
Reflections
in
of
the
Gaspar.
Philippines.
Yeah, so when it came out, I said, pwede naman pala tayong sumulat.
Yeah.
At it dawned on me, kaya naman pala ng Pilipino at kaya naman pala ng taga-probinsya kahit na yung English natin ay hindi naman ganun ka-excellent. Basta meron ka lang magandang editors and a publisher that's willing to publish your works. You can be an author.
But you actually also wrote and probably still write in Cebuano?
Yeah, that's why I do fiction.
Yeah.
Because I also believe we should be writing in our own mother tongue.
Yeah.
Dapat lahat tayo sa Philippines, whether
That's
you're
true.
Bicolano, Waray, Tagalog, and Subanon, and Maguindanao, Maranao, lahat tayo we should. And I know the reading public is very small, but there is a reading public. You have to discover that reading public. So when I write fiction, I write in Cebuano, Bisaya.
Yeah. Brother, yun nga, nakwento mo nga yung writing background mo, no? That led to the publication of the first book at tuloy-tuloy na yun, sunod-sunod na. Halos
Tuloy-tuloy na yun. Yeah, almost every 2 or 3 years I have. After that, of course, I wondered, ano ba yun? Parang swerte lang ba yun? O ano lang yun? Minsan lang yun mangyayari? Because I didn't think, it was going to be something that I would be doing regularly. And then that was 85. And then 87, 89, I was already a Redemptorist. I had joined the Redemptorists. And we were in Bukidnon, in the very heart of that area that had major ecological problems because of logging. And we were doing work there to strengthen the basic leisure communities upon the invitation of the Scarboroughs. And something happened kasi di ba 86 EDSA.
Yes.
So the idea of people power talagang nag-spread yun hanggang sa probinsya. Kaya nung pinag-uusapan na ng mga magsasaka to do something about the logging, kasi dalawang malaking logging doon, at yung ginagawa nilang logging disturbed the ecological watershed of that part of Bukidnon. Wala nang tubig na dumadaloy doon sa Tigwa River at that impacted on their irrigation canals. Kaya hirap na hirap sila. Kaya kailangan mahinto yung mga logging corporations na yun. Paano mo gagawin yan na very powerful yung mga logging firms na yun? At even at the time, under Cory, hindi naman ganun kalakas pa rin ang gobyerno to stop logging. So the only way was people power. At nag-barricade nga. Yun ang desisyon ng mga tao. Sinuportahan namin sila. At nung it was unfolding, I said, libro ito. This is going to be really a nice book. But I have to make sure I will write a journal. And depending on where this is going, especially if this is going to be successful, it will really be a very interesting narrative on a people's action, which is one of the first ecological mass action ng mga ordinaryong tao, to protect the forest. So journal ako ng journal. Every day I wrote a journal. Everything from our giving seminars to Bible sharing, where we shared about the gift of God and so on. Hanggang yung first step ng barricaded the street, and the logging trucks could not push through. And then inatake kami ng CHDF. Nagkaroon ng violence sa barricade. Di rin nahinto, pinatuloy yun. Anyway, ultimately hanggang si Attorney Factoran was the inner chief, finally heard about it because we got a lot of media coverage. Hanggang nagkaroon na ng mga dialogue, hanggang yung mga leader ng mga magsasaka dinala sa Manila for further dialogue, hanggang nahinto. So, wonderful story. So, tamang-tama talaga dahil ginawa ko na yung journal. So, by the time it already was a success, I just compiled it together and I wrote it into like a book. Pinadala ko rin sa Clarician. They were also very interested. That was my second book. So I said, naku, hindi lang naman pala isang libro lang. Pwede talaga na another one. So sunod-sunod na yun.
Yeah.
But
Um,
the one book that really made a big difference, no, and I think that's really what made me what could make me claim that I'm really an author
yeah.
is the one that was my dissertation for my
Yes.
PhD at UP, yung
Manobo Dreams in
yeah,
Arakan.
Marnoble Dreams in Arakan. Because yun talaga, matagal yon. Alam naman natin, fieldwork pa lang, no? Saka all the research you have to do and the writing and the whole process of defending your dissertation, siguro umabot yun ng 5 years. So it was just a matter of rewriting chapter 1 so that it becomes a book. And Admo Press at the time was also very helpful. So when that book came out, that was the one I really thought I could be very proud of. And luckily naman, it won the National Book Award.
Yes,
So
yes.
that I think is like the watershed of my career, in this career as an author.
Yeah, yeah. It
and
still
certainly,
sells. It still
yeah,
sells copies here in
that's
Ateneo
true.
Press
That's
every
true.
year.
Yeah, that's true. Mhm.
Yeah. Brother, yung second book mo, yung Pumipiglas, no? 1987, Teolohiya ng Bayan.
Yeah.
Of course, Cory's time. Tama po ba, ito ding time na to na lumabas yung IPRA or was it a bit later?
Yeah. IPRA is 1997.
97, right?
97. This was 1987. In fact, yung paglabas ng 1997 IPRA, di ba malaking proseso din yan, di ba?
Yeah.
Dahil 1987, nag-convene ng Constitutional Convention si Cory.
Yes.
At buti na lang nandun si Pons Binagin.
Yes.
So
yes.
may bosses ang mga anthropologists doon sa convention na yan. Nandun din si Lino Broca, si Sister Christine, maraming mga militant activist na napasok doon as delegate to the Constitutional Convention. And ang pinasok talaga ni Pons na siya yung contribution niya to the 1987 Constitution na baguhin yung discourse on land ownership, because up to that point in time, since the 1936 Constitution to the 1972, parati lang dalawang category, di ba? Public land, private land. Yeah. Kaya dihado talaga ang mga Moro at mga Lumad dahil kung balikan natin ang kasaysayan ay ang hirap naman talaga isipin nila na mayroong magkakaroon ng private land kasi hindi naman pribado yung pagmamay-ari ng lupain ng ating mga ninuno, no? Na nagpapatuloy yan sa mga lupain ng ating mga kapatid na mga katutubo. Kaya nung pinasok yan ni Pons Binagin at naging diskurso nga doon sa convention, and luckily then because nga of the presence of the militant activists among the delegates, at pinasa. Kaya naging parte na nga siya ng ating 1987 Constitution. Doon pa lang, marami sa amin, at kami siyempre sa Mindanao, ginawa namin lahat ng aming magagawa, pero we're always in collaboration with the Episcopal Commission of Indigenous People and all the NGOs based in Manila and the rest of the country that we're already pushing for the legislation. No? Kasi the next step was legislation. Yun, alam mo na yun, kahit na nasa nasa Constitution, pag walang law that will concretize how this idea will be fulfilled in practice, wala ring mangyayari. Kaya we were starting to lobby already, no? Ang hirap din ng lobbying pala. Kasi yung ating experience at that time, bago pa rin, di ba?
Yeah.
And hindi pa rin ganun kapino ba yung mga processes. And of course, alam din natin na Congress remained in the hands of landed political dynasties, no? So they will not move. Although there were a few congressmen na hindi naman part ng itong landed political dynasties na who were interested to really pursue this, and it was through them that we were able to at least begin filing bills, no? Like si Andolana ng Kidapawan, North Cotabato, who was a human rights lawyer na madali namin lapitan doon sa Mindanao. So meron ng mga bills, pero ang bagal talaga. And that was 87, 88, 89, hanggang 93. in 93, Fulgencio Factoran, because we were lobbying na the DENR, no? Because the DENR had a major say also regarding the continuation of logging, the entry of mining, etc., etc. And kahit na ano naman, wala silang direct contact to Congress, baka naman meron silang way to try to get the law passed. Ito naman si Attorney Factoran ay mayroon din naman siyang ginawang initiative, ano? Talagang tiningnan niya yung mga batas ng ating bayan at nakita niya meron palang loophole dyan. O, hindi naman loophole, may possibility. Kasi kung baga sa mga batas na talagang pwedeng may force of law, the most important at the best, of course, is the one that is passed by Congress.
Right.
Secondly, also are the decrees of the president. Kaya nga si Marcos, ang dami niyang mga presidential decree. Yung ating palang mga department ng ating gobyerno, pwede din sila mag-issue ng departmental order and it may not really be considered yet a law. But meanwhile, kung walang law pero nasa constitution, may validity siya somehow. So sinabi ni Factoran, kung mag-i-issue siya ng departmental order, and he did, ito yung DAO 2, Departmental Order number 2, series of 1993, pinalabas niya yan, and the main content of that departmental order was to allow indigenous communities now to apply for a certificate of ancestral domain claim. It's a claim, not a title.
Yeah.
So lumabas yan. At ibinahagi niya sa, sa circle, sa network ng mga IP advocates. And we were happy. At least there was something we can already start with, because it then allowed us not to actually take an initiative doon sa documentation na ng lupain. Pwede mo nang i-measure gaano kalaki yung kanilang mga lupain, and then you start looking into the documents na kailangan ng kanilang mga claim. Although ang haba din ng requirement yung mga claim na yun. Kung sila-sila lang, hindi talaga kaya ng mga katutubo na sila lang ang gagawa, kasi and everything from the genealogy ng kanilang mga ancestors to their ancestral laws, to their rituals, to their history, etc., etc., etc. So talagang very overwhelming yung requirement. So some of us began to look into possibilities like that. Like at that time, our mission team was in Lakewood. We were in Lakewood, Zamboanga del Sur, among the Subanan. At inisip ko nga, sige daw, explore natin, baka at least man lang may claim sila yung mga Subanan sa area na yun. At that time, may dalawa din kaming nakuha, tatlo silang nakuha naming partner, yung AFRIM, yung Alternate Research for Mindanao, yung LRC, KSK, they had an office in Davao at that time for Mindanao. And then itong culture group ni Nestor Orfilia, yung Kaliwa Theater Collective, kasi they were beginning to establish the technology of how to do documentation. So we invited the three of them to Lakewood, and then we collaborated to do it, no? At kaya naman palang gawin kung ang mga katutubo mismo interesado, and the chieftains are very willing to collaborate, and then you have partners that have the resources and the staff. So yun lang. And then still claim lang din yun. Wala pa rin siyang, hindi mo pa rin masasabing title yun. So insecure pa rin yung mga katutubo. So that was 1993. So patuloy pa rin ang lobbying with Congress. Ano? Imagine, 93, 97, apat na taon pa rin yun. Pero ito, alam mo ito, no? Yung the whole dynamic of the RJRA, di ba? Pumasok yan around this time. Yung, di ba, may faction ng militant activists of the 70s na talagang reaffirmist sila. Meron din naman yung rejectionist. Nagkakaroon ng problema na the RA, ayaw nila makialam doon sa lobbying process na to. Pero yung RAs naman thought, ito lang naman magagawa natin for the moment. Kaya bigyan natin ng pagkakataon. So it was this network more who were really into the lobbying. And eventually, we didn't expect it, but I don't know what was it about Fidel Ramos that he really pushed it as president. And the confluence in the Congress made it possible to finally have the law. So finally, in 1997, ay na-approve na nga ang IPRA. We thought ito na yung sagot doon sa problema. Ay, nako. Ano na tayo ngayon?
25 years.
25 years.
Yeah.
Ay, nako, yung IPRA na yan talaga. Alam natin, di ba, sa UGAT conference, ang dami ng pinag-uusapan.
Yes.
Hindi naman talaga naman totoo na everywhere. Kasi I've experienced across Mindanao where there were naman some NCIP units na okay. Pero by and large talaga, nakakalungkot talaga ba?
Yeah.
When you consider this is the agency that could make such a difference in the life of our mga kapatid na dumadaan. Ay, nako.
Brother, ano sa tingin nyo ngayon, 25 years hence, yung mga pinaka-frustrating sa'yo na hindi pa rin na-address in terms of IP rights?
Yeah. Immediate lang human rights, siyempre. Kasi yun yung advocacy ko during the 70s for which I got arrested. Ano?
Yes.
Yung karapatan ng mga tao na magsalita, na ibahagi yung kanilang mga prinsipyo sa buhay, gusto nilang mangyari, makipag-usap sa gobyerno, na matalino naman yung pinag-usap at walang karahasan. Ganun ba? Yun lang, very basic respect of the integrity of the people as human beings, no? Yun, nakakaiyak yun.
That's true.
Anyway, kahit na yun lang ba, na irespeto yung kanilang karapatan. Dahil sila yung mga Pilipino, sila yung ating mga ninuno, ano? May karapatan sila sa kanilang lupain. At alam natin, sa lahat ng mga kababayan natin ngayon, sila talaga naghihirap. Kung sabihin mo, who are the least among us Filipinos, sila talaga yun. Kaya dapat sila yung binibigyan natin ng halaga. At kahit man lang yun, irerespeto yung mga karapatan nila bilang tao. Basic lang naman yun, di ba? Basic human rights. While we're sitting here comfortably for this radio station, alam natin doon ngayon sa iba't ibang dako ng ating mga ancestral domain ng ating mga katulong kapatid, very insecure yung kanilang buhay. Ang dami na nga sa kanila, di ba? Through the years, in 70s pa nga hanggang ngayon, ay hindi mapayapa yung kanilang buhay. Dahil nga, lalo pat, meron din silang mga karapatan na hindi gagalawin yung kanilang ancestral domain dahil ito na, papasok na itong logging, papasok na itong mining, papasok na itong mga plantation. Pero kahit man yun lang ba yung basic human rights. Now, of course, beyond that, of course, are there land rights. Na yun din, di ba? Napakahalaga din nun. Dahil nga may IPRA na nga sana naglabas na tayo ng batas. Ba't hindi natin na-implement yun? Bakit pa tayo may kongreso kung maglalabas tayo ng mga batas, hindi naman natin pinufulfill yan. Ano? At alam din natin talagang there's just abuse, no, of the rights of our country. Hindi naman totoo yan all over, di ba? Hindi naman lahat sa Pilipinas na lahat ng mga abode ng ating mga katutubo ay ganon. Pero alam natin marami pa. At ito nga sa Mindanao, ang dami pa talaga. ang problema ngayon ay hindi na nga nagpapatig na rin kasi ang media eh. Dumating na sa punto ba na hindi na nire-report dahil may nagbago na rin sa ating public sphere na medyo public opinion on the rights of our mga katutubo, hindi rin ganun kataas yung priority. Kaya hindi na talaga nabibigyan ng pansin. At kukonting-kukonti na lang din yung mga advocacy groups, no? Dahil lumiit na lang din yung mga NGOs. At even kami sa simbahan, dati-dati ang dami who were assigned to IP territories, pero lumiit na din yan eh. Hindi na ganun kadami ngayon, kaya yung boses din ng simbahan, hindi na rin malakas. Kaya overall, yung support, yung solidarity talaga for indigenous rights ay hindi na ganun kalakas compared to the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s.
That's too sad, no? Kasi alam natin gaano kahalaga yung civil society, no?
Yeah,
Sa work.
that's true. That's true.
Pero yung nga, yung kung nabanggit mo na pakonti ng pakonti yung mga groups na tumutulong, nag-assist, nag-enable sa rights ng mga katutubo. Parang ano pa ba yung kailangang mangyari? What needs to change? Sa tingin niyo ba, brother, meron bang kailangang like, I don't know, systemic change for us to realize na merong marginalized groups who continue to be suffering? Kasi parang, yun nga, sabi mo nga, parang nakakalimutan na, nawala na sa limelight. Pero nandun pa rin yung abuses and suffering, yung hunger, yung struggle for land, etc. So, I'm wondering siguro, ano bang kailangan mangyari? That's such a hard question to answer, but I'm not sure kung meron kayong
well,
thoughts.
simply, of course, no, the usual discourse regarding radical change in society would be to completely radically change the structures that are at work in terms of the economic control, who controls the wealth and so on. And how do you also radically change the political structure so that the state apparatus is not subservient to the interests of the oligarchy and the elite, but would rather protect the interests of the majority. So, ganun pa rin yung pag-iisip na, di ba, yung paano mo babaguhin ang society. Pero kung isipin mo yung ating current contemporary history and the manner that which Filipino society is constituted now by the oligarchy and the kind of system that is at work, medyo mabagal pa yan.
That's true.
And considering also that the militancy of that protest movement, medyo talagang hindi na rin ganun ka very radically organized as it used to be. Well, ako naman, hindi ako nawawalan ng pag-asa, no? Dahil kailangan talaga na you sustain that hope for the future because otherwise, ano lang gagawin mo?
Kaya nga eh. You can't give up, right?
You cannot give up. Although I know, ako din, konti na lang tayong magagawa ko. And whatever little I do, I still try to do it as much as I can. But the more, di ba ngayon ay mas lumilitaw din yung tinatawag nilang a decolonial way of dealing with the possibility of change. No? Na, alam natin, there is crisis in the world today. There's a global crisis in terms of the economic, political structures. Hindi lang naman sa atin eh. It's no longer just in the third world settings. Even in the West, they're beginning to experience that they too are captive to the interest of their own elite oligarchy, di ba? And the manner that which big oil, big tobacco, big money bag, big internet, all these big conglomerates are controlling the world's global economy. Lahat naman tayo. I mean, across the world. Wherever you're not connected to the elite, the oligarchy, we suffer at various levels of impoverishment. Kaya sabi nga ng mga decolonial theories ngayon, wag muna nating pag-isipan yung pagbabago ng malaking mga structure. Kasi eventually, kokolapse din yan ng kokolapse, di ba? May nagsasabi na rin ngayon itong, narinig mo na itong VOCA. They're referring to the world today as already in that stage of being so volatile, so uncertain, so complex, and it's all very ambiguous at the moment. So in that state siguro where we are, wag mong ilagay dyan yung ano mo kasi parang you're banging your head on the wall. But work at the local communities, and this is to me the very important sign of hope ng ating mga katutubo. Dahil din naman siguro sa mga nangyayari since the late 60s hanggang ngayon. Kasi nung nag-umpisa kami ng IP Solidarity work ng Mindanao, this was in the 70s. At that time, very fragmented talaga ang network ng ating mga IPs. I'm speaking of Mindanao, but I think it was true in the whole Philippines. They were left basically on their own, and they had very little contact with each other because geographically naman, even linguistically and naturally also forms of communications and so on, they were not able to network with each other and talk to each other. They didn't know what was happening in other IP areas, bukod doon na lang sa kanilang sariling lugar. But since we began helping them to network with each other, and in Mindanao, just before EDSA in 1986, there was already a big network called Lumad, which was organized both by chieftains and young leaders ng mga Lumad with the support of the CSOs nga that we're already building up at that time. Dumating doon sa stage na may contact na sila sa each other, and they knew what was happening in different IP territories, not just in Mindanao but even across the Philippines. So merong ganun dyan. And then of course there was organizing in various levels. Alam natin yung mga level na yan. So by that time, yung CSO network ay nag-decrease yung kanyang strength. Doon lumitaw na lumalakas yung kanilang collective response to the situation. Kaya di ba, just before the pandemic, there were all kinds of mass mobilizations. Frontline talaga mga Lumad. Hindi na nila kailangan na may mga labor leaders, peasant leaders, students, church people who will speak there at the rallies on their behalf. Sila na yung nagsasalita. And eventually, like in various places in Mindanao, yung mga rally, sila na. Hindi na kailangan mga CSOs nag-organize. Kaya na nila mag-organize. And even across the pandemic, there were attempts in Mindanao that they could do it. No? So sa tingin ko, mayroon ng ganon. And then, in a way, the empowerment of a certain segment of the population has led to a consciousness. So I always try to see where these two movements are sort of developing, the Moro struggle in Mindanao and the Lumad struggle. Ibang-iba sila, of course. Hindi mo pwedeng i-comparar. But nonetheless, there's a certain path that is being taken by the Lumad struggle that could eventually also help bring them together. Ang problema lang talaga ay, siyempre, yung ating fragmentations din ay, it also gets in the way, di ba? Because right now, you have three factions of the Lumad communities. You have one faction that can easily be influenced by the military, either because of persuasion, or that's by giving them arms, giving them largesse, and so on, or by force, and so they have no choice but to be subservient to the military, and some of them can be used for paramilitary purposes, diba? At nangyayari yan. And they are enemy of their very own people, diba? And then, of course, you have the other extreme din naman. They have no choice but to really join the armed struggle, and And there is reason for them to do that. And we
Yeah.
cannot, tayong mga nandito sa very comfortable place, we cannot make any judgment, no,
That's true.
regarding the option they take. But there is this center group, no, and some of the leaders here are really excellent, no, and
Yeah.
they manage to maneuver themselves within this reality, and their communities are quite solid, and they're really moving, and I think they're also trying their best to collaborate, to network,
Yeah.
and I think there really is hope there that from out of this, you can continue to mobilize at the local level, and this localization of the struggle, I think, is happening, no. And I just hope that meanwhile, tayo naman mga CSOs, no, we can be awakened again, no, because nagkaroon din ng impasse. Isa nga ito. I mean, recently I had a little bit of discussion with some friends, because in Davao now there is what is called the Mindanao Art Fair that happens every year. Yan. It's a visual arts exhibit that gathers together with quite a number of painters, sculptors all over Mindanao, and it has always been in Davao. Third, fourth na ata ito. Yan, naging problema. There was a time kasi that the whole cultural network din ng Mindanao was very militant. Theater artists, songwriters, visual artists, writers, and so on. They were at the service of the militant struggle against martial law. In other words, gumagawa sila ng art. Yung art na yun ay may pinupuntahan. It fueled the militancy of the protest movement.
Yeah.
Ang naging problema, siguro mga 1990s, nag-move yung cultural movement ng Mindanao, lumitaw siya. So naging art for art's sake na lang. Kaya sina-challenge ko pa rin mga artists and cultural workers, ano ba kayo? Hanggang exhibit na lang kayo. And you're appropriating the lumad cultures, the lumad colors, the lumad myths and mythics and so on for your own glory. Wala na nga kayong immersion, hindi na kayo nag-exposure, wala kayong support to campaigns that are still happening. Mga ganun ba? Kaya
but that's a good point, no, na yun nga, on the one hand, merong aasahan tayo dahil may empowered na itong local communities themselves, the IP communities themselves, which I'm sure has been impacted, or parang the result of the work that the civil society and the church has done in the previous decades, I'm sure has led to that. Parang, diba? But also support from us is needed, from artists, from students, from academe. Kasi yun nga, parang ang hirap na asahan lang, na parang hirap na sabihin na kaya na yan nila, no? Because hindi dapat it has to have mainstream support, no? Dapat majority of the population has to understand that hindi pwedeng mag-progress yung society na merong naiiwan. Di ba, may naiiwan sa laylayan.
True. And of course, the challenge for us in the anthropology field, no? Kasi pag sinabi mo, ito nangyayari sa culture, tayo rin, pag-iisipan din natin, at tayo ba sa academe, sana ba tayo? Anong klaseng support ginagawa natin? Baka naman fieldwork tayo ng fieldwork para sa sariling glory natin.
That's true.
Kasi ano pa rin yan, I mean, you remember Mariflor Parpan, di ba? That kasi na Alphonsus binagin, yung Chico Dam River.
Yes.
Yun, talagang pumotok yung issue na yun dahil sa anthropology support, no, ni Mariflor.
That's true. Kaliwa Dam.
The Chico River
River Dam. Yeah.
So, dapat din ang ugat, no? Constantly will bring back that part of its history dahil ugat yun eh.
That's true. Actually, brother, that's such a important parting message kasi in next week, Ugat will meet in our annual conference.
Yes.
So I'm the president right now of Ugat, and I hope I can bring that message across
Please.
to the members.
So please do. I
Yeah.
wish I could attend, but
Yeah.
at this
No, I
time.
will send you the online link, brother, in case you're free. Yes.
Yeah. I would really
Yes,
like to
yes,
join
yes.
some of the online
Right,
virtual activities.
For sure.
Please,
for sure.
please. And good luck, ha. Maganda yung theme. Gusto ko yung theme.
Yes,
Islands.
yes. Yeah,
Because isa yung, I only had time. I wanted something of that kind of a study from Mindanao, yung mga islets around Mindanao, and especially the ones that went through all kinds of upheavals, like the ones towards Tawi-Tawi. So ang ganda sana talaga. Nawala na
kayo sa Mindanao.
kasi di ba, yun talaga minsan din as a scholar, you have to make your choice eh.
That's true.
Now, ito yung mas mahalaga, ito yung pangangailangan talaga, ito yung kailangan mong bigyan pa ng pansin. Although ito sana yung gusto mo rin gawin, ay nako, hindi mo talagang magagawa.
options.
So good luck sa
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, brother.
Ikaw pala naging presidente na, imagine.
So yun, sayang patapos na yung oras natin, pero sobrang dami kong insights na nababaon from this conversation with Brother Karl. Sa mga tagapakinig po natin, last message, brother, hihingi ako sa iyo ng na kumpletuhin niyo itong phrase na ito. Baka naman pwede, maybe a call or panawagan kung kahit kanino man sa society at large or government in terms of the topic that we're discussing now.
Ako yun? O sila? Ako pala yun.
Kayo po, Brother Karl.
Baka naman pwede kayong mga tagapakinig, bigyan pa ninyo ng pagkakataon malaman kung ano ang mga tunay na nangyayari sa ating mga katutubong kapatid, na hindi na nga masyadong nire-report ngayon ng mga news agencies. Maghanap kayo ng pagkakataon na mas malaman ninyo ito. At pangalawa, maghanap din kayo ng pagkakataon na meron kayong magagawa. Kasi maraming mga kampanya ngayon. Tulad nung kampanya to stop the Kadiwa Dam, dyan sa may malapit sa Quezon. Tulad ng stop to mining dito sa iba't ibang parte ng Mindanao. Tulad ng mga harassment ng ating mga IP leaders doon sa mga lugar kung saan sila ay may resistance against the encroachment into their ancestral domain. And, tayo naman ay nananalangin sa ating Panginoon. Kahit man lang din ipanalangin natin na ang ating mga kapatid na mga katutubo ay hindi mawawalan ng pag-asa at ipagpatuloy din nila ang kanilang pagkikibaka at susuportahan natin sila. Baka naman pwede gawin natin yan.
Maraming salamat ulit, Brother Karl. Dito po nagtatapos ang Baka Naman Pwede. Maraming salamat sa pakikinig. Baka naman pwedeng i-like nyo rin ang Institute of Philippine Culture sa Facebook para sa iba pa naming upcoming events at announcements. Hanggang sa susunod po, ako si Skilty Labastilla. Patuloy tayong mag-ingat at laging tandaan, kung may gustong maunawaan, baka naman pwede nating pag-usapan.
Baka naman pwede.
Baka naman pwede.
Baka naman pwede.
Mga isyung napapanahon, ating pag-usapan.
Baka naman pwede.
Gamit ang mga pananaw mula sa iba't ibang kalinangan.
Baka naman pwede.
Mula sa Institute of Philippine Culture, kami inyong samahan, tayo'y maghuntahan. Dito lang sa
Baka naman pwede.
tuwing Huwebes, alas 3 ng hapon, dito lang sa Radyo Katipunan, 87.9 FM.
Radyo Katipunan. News,